And here we are. It is Friday, which means it's time for Friday with Friends. So I'm back after a little summer hiatus. Some of it was I was just really too busy to get people sorted out. And the other thing I was just really too busy and I couldn't do everything all at the same time. But I've been really lucky to have Lorna Czarnota join me today. Hello, Lorna. How are you doing?
Hi, Simon. I'm so happy to be here. I love you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's the feeling is mutual. The feeling is mutual, and it looks like you're out in the Starlight Cafe.
I am in the Starlight Cafe. There's mostly sunlight right now,
Yes.
but at night there are lights in the tree over my head, which it's an old lilac tree that's
Uh-huh.
been here probably 70 years, maybe longer.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
We have a small lilac tree over there, and I think we need to start looking at trimming it properly because it's getting very tall and skinny, and I
That
think we need to.
happens.
Yeah, right. I actually, talking about trees getting tall and skinny, my dad, who lives in Swansea, we went to this rhododendron forest, and we saw rhododendron trees that were 50, 80, 100 feet tall. It was amazing.
Wow.
And they were in bloom as well, so it was absolutely gorgeous to see.
Yeah, I didn't know they got that big.
I didn't either. I
I
had no
I,
idea.
I have some
I
very spindly ones way in the back.
Yeah,
And
we've got.
they like pine needles.
Oh, maybe we should go. We have a pine forest not far away. Maybe I should go and gather some pine needles and dump them around the base of it. That would be a good
I,
idea.
I always save the needles from my Christmas tree. That's where they go.
Oh, what a good idea! I like that idea. So, how have you been over this whole pandemic time, crazy pandemic time?
I've been keeping myself very busy, Simon. I
Yeah,
don't. I do not do downtime very well.
yeah,
I I
yeah,
like to be busy. I like to be doing things. And so, hi, it's Lisa.
yeah. That's Lisa Wilcox. Yeah, she's saying hi.
Hi,
She's calling
Lisa.
in from North Carolina. Oh, and Sarah DeBeer is here as well. Hi, Sarah. It's
Hi,
nice to have.
Sarah.
Sarah hasn't been here for ages, so it's good to be. I'm happy to see your face there, Sarah. Good to see you.
Good to see everybody.
It is. It is. So you
So
you like to keep busy. Sorry.
I do. So early in the pandemic, I tried to figure out what I could do from my neighborhood.
Uh huh.
So we did chalk messages. So I put out a little container of chalk and I wrote to my neighbors and they wrote back. And, there was one woman down the street who left her address. And then I took a walk down there and left a message on her sidewalk. And
Oh
uh,
no way! What a
yeah,
great
it was
idea.
wonderful. And I caught the garbage man writing a message and he signed it the G man. So it was a way to stay connected. So and it kept me busy because I went out every day and I did that.
Well, that's really neat because you don't. So I live in a fairly New London is a very we have a population of I think it's like 4,000 or 5,000 people in this town. It's not very big at all. And even though the high street is behind us and we're the next street down, there's no sidewalk. It's very rural. And for example, at 3 o'clock last night, our dog went absolutely bonkers and started barking full on attack mode. And when we got to see what she was barking at, there was a mama bear and two cubs in our front lawn.
Oh my gosh.
So, and we get deer coming through, and the bears just got up and started walking down the road, right? I mean, it's not that rural, but this is what the area that we're in is very rural.
And do you
And
live with six other men?
no, no, I do not live with 6 of them. I live with
And
my
so
daughter and my wife, a female dog, and a female cat. So, like, it's almost the other way around.
well, I'm on a very commercial street in the
Right.
city of Buffalo, North Buffalo, and in the way back here, right now we're in the Starlight Cafe, but behind this is my garage behind me, and behind that is a very large, long, deep yard with a huge wisteria bush that has been there forever. And on the other side of that, there's a fish pond and my little secret garden. And when you're back there, you don't even hear the traffic on the road, you know. But it's nice. I have to be either very rural or very city, you know. So
Yeah.
I like this. There are restaurants down the street we can walk to. There's an ice cream place across the street that way, and a coffee shop the other way. So there's some foot traffic. I've actually been trying to get yard tails going. On Saturday afternoon, I go out and I sit in my front yard, and
Right.
I try to take things out there that will draw attention, like my spinning wheel or my harp, or you know, something, and then people they'll stop by and they'll wonder what's going on. I've taught people how to, you know, I've let them play the harp. I've taught them how to spin, and I've told them stories in my front yard. So that's something I'm really working hard at.
You need to get a mannequin and set it up high enough, because mannequins always draw attention, especially if you dress them in strange manners.
I could just stand out there like a mannequin. That would get
Well, you
attention.
could. Yeah, you could. Paint
And I know what
lines around your joints.
Yeah, if I had a mannequin out there holding a sign, you know,
Right.
hear a story, leave a story, whatever, that could
Yeah.
be fun. Thanks for the idea.
You're welcome. How long have you been doing that for?
I just started it at the end of 2019, and then everything closed up. So we haven't done a lot of them because, you know, like you, my summers and time gets busy. So I go out and do them when I can. I'm trying to do it on a regular basis so people grow accustomed to it.
Right.
But you know, there are porch festivals all around the place, you know, which are music festivals on people's porches, and there's a lot of music and everything up at the other end of our street. But I thought, well, why not storytelling and the folk arts? And in fact, one of my long lasting dreams is to not do a storytelling festival, but a folk arts festival where people are in the fronts of buildings and their yards and the front of businesses up and down the street creating folk art, whether they're sitting and quilting or spinning or telling stories or whatever they might be doing. So it's kind of a long time dream of mine.
That would be
We're getting
really
closer.
cool. Actually, so Sarah De Beer has just she made a couple of comments. One was you should paint yourself silver for the mannequin, and the other one
I've
was
seen that in your
yeah, you look like a cyborg from Doctor Who then. And then the other question is where you are. You're in Buffalo, New York, about as far away from New York City, as far away from New York City as you can get.
Yeah, about 400, over 400 miles from New York City.
It's amazing to think that the state is that big. I mean, I know, you know, I know on the other side of the country, on the West Coast, the states are huge, but here we're all lots of little teeny tiny states, and then there's like Massachusetts, which is kind of long and skinny, and then you have New York, which is like. So we also have some other people that have joined us.
I was in Ireland. Somebody thought I was in New York City, and I tried to explain to them you could take the country of Ireland and put it in New York State and have room left over.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, you could. You certainly could. So we got a few other people here. Jane Ogborn Dorfman is here, and so she says hello to both of us.
Hi, Jane.
And Sarah De Beer, she says that she's in West Hartford, Connecticut, and she says that every time I mention New London, she hopes that I'm going to move there. And we have Renee Kim Ray, which is like the coolest person with the coolest name, who says there's also a New London in North Carolina. So there you go. Oh, hang on. And what does Sarah say? I've got to do the Corch. Storyteller that can't read out loud. Got to do the Porch concert in the summer. I grew up in Albany, says Sarah. Well, that's cool. Oh, what? Hang on. Now she's posted it now. So Porch info. Porch fests are events where various neighborhoods set up porches and bands for afternoon music. Audiences can stroll from block to block, taking the local sounds. I love that. It's kind of like Portland, Oregon. We used to live there. You used to see, you know, you walk along the riverbank and there'd be like drum circles and buskers and all that kind of stuff, which is, I mean, it's not the same, but there were so many of them that you could almost do that.
I love that. I just think a city is alive when those when things come out of the buildings and into the yards and the streets, and I want to be, I think I told you in our last conversation,
Hmm.
I really want people to come by my house and say the storyteller lives there, or the
Right.
storyteller used to live there, or I don't want to be invisible to my community, and
Right.
it's really hard. I probably do more work out of town than I do here, which is
I,
always the case,
yeah, I was
but
going to say, I think
I really,
that's not unusual.
we
Yeah,
need to
I
be
think
more visible.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Certainly the arts, but I really do believe that there's this whole thing of where you have to cross a river before you get work. It's like a town or two away.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we've got somebody new here. I think Catherine Crowley is from Oman. Where is Oman? Oh my, where is Oman? No one's a prophet in their own village. Well, that's a true state. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah's very right on that. So yeah, I find it's the same ways. I have to force myself onto the local elementary school up the road. Would you like me to come and tell stories? Oh yeah, that would be really nice.
You know what?
Um,
I offered free storytelling, which I
that's
don't
what I do.
typically do.
Yeah.
But to the children in my family when they were in grade school, and that the schools didn't take me up on it. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was when my daughter and my son were in school. I tended to get more work, and sometimes they would pay, but often they wouldn't. Oh, oh wow, Catherine's. So she's way away. She's from 2 hours from Dubai.
Oh, in Dubai. Oh, hi.
Wow. Well, I hope
Wow.
you're having fun over there and being safe. That's a cool place. My brother-in-law has worked out there, and he loves it out there. Right now, he's in
When
Japan. Lucky
Oh,
bugger.
really? Wow.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's a
And
great
Sarah's talking.
opportunity.
Yeah, and Sarah's like, I think I'm going to go to Japan. And I'm like, well, I'm coming with you. And she's like, well, someone's got to look after the dog and Perry. And I'm like, no, we got neighbors to look after the kid and the dog.
Going back to Dubai, when I was in India, I had a chance to, I had the opportunity to stop in Dubai, but I couldn't do it. But
Oh,
I've heard it's a lovely place. Yeah.
yeah, I've heard the same too. Yes, yeah. So what else have you been up to, apart from telling stories in your front lawn and teaching people how to spin? Spin, spin.
Well,
Oh, hang on. I've got a quick question for you. Do you have
yeah,
a
yeah.
really oversized foot?
No, and I don't have a fat lip or a big thumb either.
Okay, I was just checking. Just checking.
I know. But there's a truth to that, because the muscle, if a lot of the spinning wheels they're making today can be used with 2 feet.
Okay.
So you pedal it this way, you treadle it this way. But when you are treadling it if it's your business and you're doing it all day long, hour after hour, the muscle and in that foot can get larger than the other one. So there's a truth there.
No, I do not doubt that for a second.
The
They
same
found.
thing with the thumb and the lip.
Uh-huh.
So in the story that you're thinking of, which is the 3 spinners,
Right.
they were spinning flax, in my opinion, because when you draw the flax, you actually, in the old days, I use a little water container because I like to spin it wet. You can spin it dry or wet, but you draw it through the water, or in the old days, they drew it between their lips to wet it. So thus the fatter lip, and from pulling it and striking it, pulling it through the spinning wheel all the time, you would get that bigger thumb.
Yeah. See, I sucked my thumb
Yeah.
for a very long time, and this thumb, the slightly larger one, is the one that I used to suck because I would squash it in the roof of my mouth. So yeah. So it's the same thing. And archers, they found archers bones, and their right shoulder is a lot larger.
Yeah.
It's almost deformed because they're pulling these 200-pound bows back. And so they're one
I've
side.
shot archery. I teach archery in the summer, although the last 2 years they haven't had the classes. But they say that those bows from like the Middle Ages, they were much heavier pull than they are today. So that's, yeah, they do
Yeah,
get
yeah.
enlarged bows.
Right. So we have an archer, not an archer. We have a shop that sells a lot of that kind of gear, not too far from here in Newbury. And my daughter, she was talking about maybe learning how to do archery, and I said that I'd do it with her because I've always wanted to do archery. And every time I've got the opportunity to pick up a bow and shoot it, I've taken it. And we were talking about bows, and they were, it would be like 120-pound, 200-pound pull on some of those old yew bows. And now, with the technology that they have, you can pull it back with a lot less effort and almost double the poundage, as it were, which makes the bows a lot stronger. So we got a few more comments. Got my sister-in-law, Jane Jennings. Hi, Simon. Hi, Laura. Greetings from Worcester, England. It's great to see you here, Jane. What a nice surprise. And Sarah's, what does Sarah say? Oh, so Sarah prefers the 3 spinners to Rumpelstiltskin. So Sarah, you have to check out Mo Reynolds' version, which I did share it in a couple of places. If you haven't seen Mo Reynolds' version of Rumpelstiltskin, she did an amazing job on it. And musicians do have weirdly distorted fingers. That's a true statement. Storytellers have strong tongues. Yes, and harmonica players. Harmonica players have very strong tongue muscles.
Well, I used to eat a lot of cookies. I used to try to put a lot of cookies in my mouth when I was a kid. Is that why I have a big mouth?
It could be. I don't. Well, I used to. So yes, I do the same thing. So maybe that's another thing. Who knows? Who knows?
So, you asked me what else I've been up to, Simon. I just had a really exciting weekend last weekend.
Yeah. What did you do?
So there I am sitting at my computer minding my own business when an Indian, a woman from India who lives here, Indian woman posted that so-and-so was looking for additional cast and crew for this thing called the 48-hour film project. Have you heard of that? It's worldwide. It's worldwide, and Buffalo is one of the participating cities. So filmmakers, mostly small independent filmmakers, they have 48 hours. They go on Friday night and they draw a genre from the hat. And then they're given an object, a line, and a character and a name they have to include in the film. And those are all the same, but the genres are different. They have 48 hours to write, gather props, gather their actors, their crew, although usually they know the actors and crew ahead of time, to do all of that, to film it, produce it, edit it, and then send it in. Has to be in by Sunday night. So 48 hours. And so I said, I always wanted to be involved in a movie. So I got in touch with the person in charge. And it turns out that he was married to a vocalist, a local vocalist that I know. And my pianist plays for her. And so, in Buffalo and Western New York, they say we're all connected within a degree of somebody. So anyway, they asked me because I jumped into the crew so late. They didn't need any more actresses, but he said, well, would you do the behind the scenes photography? And I said, well, I'm not really familiar with cameras, but if you give me something and I can point and shoot, I said, I'm a storyteller and I have a good eye for story. And so I can find the stories that are happening behind the scenes. So that's what I did. But when I went to the meeting Friday night, they said, oh, and you're also on the writing team. So I have a byline in the movie because I was on the team that wrote the story. So, and I did all the behind the scenes photography, and I ended up in the background of one of the scenes, just the side of my head and the back of my head. But rip-roaring fun, and tomorrow morning is the screening here in Buffalo of all weekend. They have the screenings of the 30 movies that people made.
So is there a website that people can go to
watch that? You could go to Buffalo 48-hour film project. And that'll take you to the Buffalo specific one.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to do a quick search for that. Although Sarah DeBeer, she's a blooming rock star. She's probably got it already. Here we go.
Now I can't do that and talk to you at the same time. No,
That's all right. I've got it. I'm on it.
Out here in the cafe, it's very hard to see the screen too in the sunlight.
There we go. I beat you, Sarah.
And they did it in less than 48 hours. Yay!
No, that's just amazing because, I've done some editing of stuff of my own and other people's stuff, and just to edit it, that could be like a day-long job, and that's just for a 5-minute kind of.
I found. These movies are only 7 minutes long. That's the maximum that they can be. But I found during the pandemic, with my one senior residence where I was having to do DVDs for them, 45-minute program was taking me 3 days to produce.
Right.
So, it's quite intensive.
Yeah.
But it was the first time I've ever been on a movie set like that. I got to see what they did. And I told them I'm all in for next year. So we're talking about next year.
Oh, that'd be cool. Do you think you might write something? You do a lot of historical stuff. We're
also talking about doing some things in between, so that'll be fun. But they draw a genre the night before the contest begins.
Right.
So, and we drew a road movie, so we had to do a road trip kind of thing. But we ended up making that into a romantic comedy.
So there's a little wobble, a little give and take in the.
It's still on the road because
right.
Our characters have to travel to different locations, but it's called Insta Adventure.
Okay. Instant Adventure?
Yeah, Insta as in Instagram.
Oh.
So it's all one word. Adventure.
I put it up there in the chat, and I'll also put it up in the banners as well.
And it may, a lot of the film companies, they put their stuff on YouTube later, but it can't be on there until after the competition. So
that makes sense.
The trailer for it is on my Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was looking for your Facebook page today. I don't know if you unfriended me or anything, but it wouldn't come up. So I'm gonna have to go and check. I'll have to poke around a little bit, which is weird because I pulled you up the other day.
Yeah.
So what's? Yeah, right. That's what I thought. And then, so here's the funny thing though, because I hadn't, I had said like join me at 12:30 and you hadn't, and at 1:45, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I was thinking, maybe she unfriended me. Maybe I said something somewhere that she didn't like, and I'm like, what's going on?
Never.
I was nearly in a Wesley Snipes movie. Very nearly. I was going to be one of the baddies. And it was being shot in Portland, Oregon, and there was supposed to be this chase on the Willamette River, which goes through Portland. And they wanted people on jet skis. And one of the producers came in and to the coffee shop that I was working in said, "Do you want to be a bad guy?" And I was like, "Tell me more." And I was like, "I don't know how to jet ski." And he's like, "It's really easy." And I was like, "Yeah, but I really don't know how to jet ski." And I kind of wish that I'd done it now, but
they wouldn't have to do your own stunts, would they?
Well, all I had to do was jet ski about. It's like go from one place to the other and stay away from the other people, And the guy that I was talking to, he was like, "It's really easy. You could do this." So this is the Insta-Venture. Is that what it's called?
No, there. Right before the V, there should be a D, and it's all one word. No capital V. It's Insta with a D.
Insta.
So INSTA, and put the V back in next.
I don't know why the V vanished.
A little V.
A little V. There we go. That's what it's called.
That's it.
No, it's not. That's still wrong. Good Lord.
What? It looked right to me.
No, it was right. Yeah. It was right. You're right. It's not venture.
Yeah. The main character loses her cell phone.
Oh, she does.
And the adventure ensues.
All right. Okay, I got that wrong. So let me put this in. Oh my gosh, Insta Venture. Spell that right. Insta Venture. Yes, there we go. All right, I put it up correctly now in the forum, as it were, in the comments.
And
So that's really cool.
yeah,
So I do. I don't know if you do that. I do this in school sometimes. Is we'll pick a genre. We'll pick a couple of characters, and they can't be like TV characters or anything like that. And we pick a location, and what else do we pick? I think
and
that's just it. Like two people or two characters, a location, and a genre. And then what we do is we put things on pieces of paper, throw them into the hat, and then that starting place, and the characters and the genre is I pull the things out of the hat, or have the kids pull the things out of the hat one at a time, and we make a story from that, which is a lot of fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really fun if you get the teachers involved, because the teacher's like, I can't do that, and it's like, yeah, of course you can. You just think you can't.
Yeah, I have cards that I made up like that. You can hear we're in the city. Hello,
What was
truck.
that?
There's a truck going by.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was a Formula One, an Formula One car. That's what it sounded like.
And we have problems here this summer that if you Google it, you'll find a lot of cities are having trouble right now with ATVs on the roads.
Oh, yeah.
So there's this motorcycle gang, whatever, that goes down our street, and they pop wheelies on these dirt bikes. It's really scary and loud. So
yeah, I was driving on the highway to a gig the other week, and there was this motorcycle that was coming up behind me. I was passing somebody else, and it's two-lane highway, and so I see the bike coming up behind me, so I speed up a little bit, so I don't have to hold him back, and I pull in. As he gets level with me, he pops this wheelie right next to my car, and is like,
and it's jolting.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's jolting when you're trying to concentrate on driving.
Right. Well, also, like if he doesn't land it right, and he comes off his bike, it's me that he's going to like drive into, or end up going underneath, which is what.
And then imagine doing that on a busy city street.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's illegal too, but they can't. They just can't seem to stop them. So.
Right. Yeah. I guess they don't do it when the police are around, and when the police aren't around, they know, right?
And for the longest time, and there may be a connection to this because our city put up traffic cameras in a lot of street corners, and this year they disabled them. So maybe.
Why did they do that?
I think there were a lot of privacy issues, maybe, or maybe it was cost. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I can't imagine it's cheap to run those things if there's a lot of them. See, in England, they have them all over the place. Talk about privacy. I didn't know that until I was watching a police show. And then there's this it's a murder mystery with English police officers, and they're going through all the street cams. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many of them. And, I was talking to my brother about it, and he was like, yeah, it's like everywhere. Can't go anywhere without somebody being, without being monitored.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, it's great if there's a crime, then you can trace it back, but, otherwise it's a bit hard. So Catherine Crowley, she says, they say that still photos are part of the world of things we read, and that video storytelling is the new world. Writing a storyboard is a great skill. Yes, storyboarding's fun. I sometimes do that with stories that I'm working on. And when I go into schools, because not all kids like to write, I have them do storyboard pictures instead, which is another good tool as well.
Yeah, when I do storyboarding, I make sure that I don't allow them to put any writing in it, though, because then they get locked into the written word. And I want them to tell the story as they're seeing the picture. I want them to make the words here and not on the storyboard.
Yeah, so so my storyboards, they have a little tiny, like a centimeter tall at the bottom of the box where they can put words. And And those that like to write, they can write on the back, but it's like it's instead of it being 7 panels, because I have the kids break the stories into 7s. I have them break it down into 7 sentences, and they can't go more than, each. You have to imagine it like a scene, like a storyboard, and what will be happening on that storyboard. You got a sentence to do that, and that way they don't get tied up in the writing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, And Catherine says pictures only. So I agree with your comment, Catherine. Still, it is part of the world that we see, but it's also, and it's interesting. I was a professional photographer for a long time. That's what I went and studied at college, and a lot of the work that we studied, like I think it was Vietnam, and when the men are putting up the flag, there's a whole series of those photos. And it's really interesting to see the whole series, and I'm trying to think of the guy's name now. What's his name? I can't think. But he was always talking about the decisive moment of when you wait for that decisive moment to take the picture, and there's a lot of, you see that. Well, there was a decisive moment, but there was also a before shot and an after shot sometimes. And then there are these other times where the decisive moment is part of a series. There's some which we could get into that, but
that's kind of what the behind the scenes photographer on a film like I was doing.
Right.
I did some reading up on it before.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I wanted to make sure I was giving them what they wanted, and I asked all the right questions, as it turns out, and that's what is your end goal? What do you want these pictures to do? But you're taking all of the gritty, dirty work stuff that may not even really make an interesting picture in the end, but it's all the stuff that goes into the making of the movie. So it goes into the decisive moment. There's lots of mini decisions that you make along the way,
Right.
So.
Yeah, I love doing that kind of work. The candid stuff when you're watching other people like creating things and capturing those moments.
So I would definitely do it again. I learned a lot.
Yeah. I used to do a lot of theatre photography as well. That was fun as well. You go into a theatre on the dress run night, and the theatre would be yours. So you can run up and down any seating row that you wanted and take pictures. I got to photograph Ben Kingsley actually doing that. Wow. Before he was actually, it was at the time that Gandhi came out. The movie Gandhi came out. And I was working for someone else, so I don't have the negs, unfortunately. But Lawrence Burns does, and I took some of those pictures. It was fun.
And I guess I could learn more about photography and focusing and all that, but I just like point and shoot. It gives me a chance to focus on the story that's happening, and they were all in black and white, which I love because I grew up with black and white television. I didn't see a colored TV until I was 18 when a friend invited me over to her house.
Wow.
So that was in 1971.
I think I had color TV before you did then. Wow.
And and I love black and white because my imagination fills in the colors and all of the things happen. And so
I think there's a lot more atmosphere with black and white, I think.
All the filming that I did, all the pictures that I did, they were black and white. So
that's excellent. Do you think that they have more mood?
I do. I think there's more implied texture.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between the light and the shadow, and I love film noir for that reason, because the shadows in some of those old black and white movies, the shadows themselves seem to tell a story, so
they do.
But speaking of story, and that's what we both do, and a lot of the viewers today apparently, it's everywhere. You can't escape it. It's like art. You can't escape art. You can't escape story. Everything has a story to tell.
I know, like that sign behind you, for example.
That was a gift from a friend, and I love it. I put it out here in the cafe.
I bet you do. So there's somebody mowing their lawn, and they're taking an awful long time to do it. So this is a sunroom, so we have a big patio window.
I hear it.
Yeah, so I've pushed it too, because it seems that they're getting close to the road right now. or somebody else has started doing it a lot closer. I don't know. It's getting noisier. Sorry. There we go. Now it's shut. Now it's going to get hot in here. So what was I going to say? Oh, have you seen The Artist?
No. What is
Oh
that?
my gosh, it's a
film.
film.
Is it?
It was made in 2011 because I ended up with COVID not long ago, like a few weeks ago, and I spent a lot of time watching TV because my brain couldn't handle anything else, and I found this film made in 2011, and it's silent apart from a smidgen. I don't want to tell you about that because it's really cool, and it's in black and white. It's a silent black and white movie, and it's one of the most powerful films I've seen in a long time. And it's, oh my gosh, it's absolutely beautiful. Such a beautiful film. So if you like silent black and white, The Artist, yeah, The Artist, and it's about the time when talkies came in. So it's set in the 1920s of when the silent movies were on the way out and the talkies were on their way in. And it's gobsmackingly great. I loved it. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it was definitely mine.
Nice.
So if you like black and white and noir and talkies and stuff, it's yeah, definitely do that.
That's one of the genres they could have drawn to. I guess the production company that I worked with is On Broad Street Productions. They actually did a black and white silent film for their last one.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It was called Stages. It might be available on YouTube. It was just called Stages, and it was about grief. It was very good.
Yeah, the only thing I ever watched about grief, I'm just putting in the notes here. And what was the name of the film company?
On Broad Street.
On Broad Street. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'll put that up on the chit chat. Yeah, one of the best films about grief that I ever saw or I've ever seen is Up, the Pixar animated cartoon movie.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. There's this. It's yeah. It's all about grief, and it's one of the most incredible. No, it's just like, oh my god, I've seen it like 3 or 4 times, and every time, Up, Up, yeah, and it's one of the most heartbreaking movies I've seen. It gets me every time.
Was it heartbreaking and also informative and comforting too?
Yes, it was. Yeah, because the widower goes through grief and grows throughout the movie.
We think, hey, I'm gonna tell a story, I'm gonna write a story, I'm gonna make a film, whatever. It's going to just rip your heart out and make you weep, or it's going to make you throw your head back and laugh, or something. It's going to make you change your life, but it can't be that. My opinion, it can't be that direct. A little, that there's usually more that comes out of it than that.
Yeah, there needs to be process, I think, and there needs to be, they talk, it's like personal narrative. I feel is that when these personal narrative stories, some of them are, I'm going to tell this story because it needs to be told and it's heart wrenching and powerful and all that kind of stuff. But if it doesn't have some sort of resolution, it can actually hurt the audience more than it can help, I think. And I think it's the same with films as well. There are some films. I'm not all about the Hollywood ending. Don't get me wrong, right? I think, the Hollywood ending. There are times it's just like, oh my gosh, can we not do this? For once.
Well, you're talking like a formula story, yeah.
Right. And,
but it's like horror. I won't go and watch something in a horror movie if I think that its whole purpose is horror.
Yeah.
Horrify. If its purpose is to teach me a lesson, help me grow in some way, make me look at the world a different way. That's a whole different thing.
Right.
You know, there are some really good Stephen King movies out there that I really enjoy, and I would see them again, but there's a couple that turned me off pretty much to going to Stephen King movies forever, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think Stephen King movies are hard to make well. There's been a few movies of his books that I've really... hang on, let me back up a little bit here. I've tried to like Stephen King novels. My best friend Billy, who was the last person I had on Friday with Friends, he is a huge Stephen King fan, and so like he's, you know, we've lived together on and off for like a long time, and he's like, you got to read this, you got to read this, you got to read this, and I still have some Stephen King books, and every once in a while I try to read them, but I can't get into them. There's something about it. The only book that I've really gotten into of his is On Writing, which I absolutely loved. But his movies, it's like I've watched some of the movies and they're horrible. They're just like really bad productions, and it's like, why does... I mean, The Shining with Jack Nicholson wasn't one of those, right? I absolutely loved that movie.
There's a lot of subtlety and suspense in that. Yeah.
There is. That was a very well made movie. I'm trying to think. There's a couple of his movies that I've seen that I've enjoyed, but they're, for the most part, I tend to avoid Stephen King movies just because I don't think they work well. From the few that I've seen, you know, there was one where pylons started to come to life, electrical pylons came to life, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. I don't like that at all. And we got some more comments popping in. What do we got? Up is filled with humor and adventure and whimsy as well as grief. That is true. There is a lot of humor in there. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with you there, Sarah.
That makes it real.
Yeah, and film imagery haunts me so that I have a very narrow window of films I can watch. Ooh, that's not good. And then Colin, my brother, he's here too. Yay! Stephen King, Shankshaw. Yes, that's one of the good ones. And didn't he write The Green Mile as well?
Yeah, he did The Green Mile.
Yeah, so those are the ones. Oh, and Stand By Me. I didn't know that was a Stephen King story. I like that one too. Yeah, Catherine says the same thing. Stand By Me.
But those aren't really horror movies.
They're not. Those are just really good movies. And what was the one that he wrote? Misery. Was it Misery? With what's her name?
That was him, wasn't it? Oh, with
it was semi-autobiographical. That was, I mean, that woman, I can't think of her name now. She's an incredible actress. And to have, what was it, Catherine somebody? I can't think. It's going to drive me bonkers now. But yeah, that Misery was just, that was such a good film. That's one of those spooky ones.
You know, and this is the thing. So we can connect this with storytelling.
Uh-huh.
I used to do a lot of scary stories at Halloween. I get very few calls anymore, and it's not because of me. It's because of the ideology of the genre, and I'm very close to the Bible Belt. And if you are a Christian, don't take that the wrong way, because I am too. But there's a certain fundamentalist mentality about scary stories, and the thing I love about storytelling of frightening things is because it's in a safe environment with a real live, living, warm human being that you can connect with. And I always invite audience, you know, if this scares you, come and talk to me, or, you know, you give them little tools that they can use that you can't get when you're sitting alone in your living room or the movie theater in the dark.
Right.
You know, so we are guides into that dark place.
Right. And I also think that as we listen to stories ourselves without any images being shown to us, you know, it's just our imaginations. I think our brain will take us as far as we can handle emotionally. Right. Exactly. And it won't take us any further. But, you know, you go into the movie, I think I've mentioned this before, when Sarah and I went to see either The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, there was a 6-year-old kid that came in, and it's like, this is not a movie for a 6-year-old kid. And when the ogres came out with all the stitching on their faces, and this 6-year-old kid is like, I want to go, and it's like, and they're like, no, they made the kids stay and watch it. And it's like, holy crap, that kid's going to have nightmares for the rest of their lives now, this poor kid. And the thing about, like, it's important to tell stories that are scary, and it's important to tell ghost stories, because, you know, I really believe that it trains us, it trains our muscles in our minds and in our bodies to recognize scary stuff and how to react to it in that context you're talking about, in a safe environment, right? And then when they get to meet scary stuff for real, then they know how to handle it. You know, instead of their first experience of something scary is when it's like out there in the real world, and it's just like their brain goes bam, right?
It's
and
like,
they don't know what to do, right?
It's like Sarah De Beers said, you know, the images are stuck in her head.
Right.
So it's, you know, how many stories are there where people got killed? There are stories, you know, and he cut off his head. I mean, there are stories like that we tell. But you go and you see that graphically portrayed in imagery on the movie screen. It's a whole different ballgame, because it just told you what to think and what to see before you were ready for that image, you know. So you're right about that it allows us at whatever level we happen to be to understand those things. Right there.
Sarah brings up a comment which cracks me up, that she was asked to do a Halloween program with no witches and no ghosts. It's like, yeah.
Put in the Headless Horseman. There you go.
I know, right? That's about it. It's like, or a vampire bat story. And Renee Kim Ray, she says, much prefer reading Stephen King's writings to watching someone's film interpretation. My brain knows just the kind of imagery I can handle. Right? You see?
Exactly.
Right? And then Sarah, again, listening to a story, you do have control over the images. And Renee Kim Ray says, but I do love The Shining. Yeah, is that the Jack Nicholson one or the remake? Because I watched the remake as well, and that was supposed to be yes, there you go, Catherine. I'm back.
Here's Molly.
That's right, through the door. Oh my gosh, that's such a great scene.
Well, you know, I learned that the hard way too. I have a story that I wrote called Silent Screams. And this was very early on in my storytelling career. I told it to the wrong audience. I went into, it was one of our guild concerts, Halloween concert. I went in and I was going to tell that story come hell or high water, which we have learned as we are experienced with a storyteller, that sometimes what you were planning isn't what you end up doing because it's not right for that audience. And I told it, and a mother walked up to me with her chin up afterwards and said, that was the most horrible story I ever heard. And, you know, she was right. Not just because it was a horror story, but it was not the right story for me to tell at that time in that place. Yeah. And I wrote it, and I told it for sensational reasons. You know,
that's never good.
And so I have since, well, you know, I had no mentors. I taught myself how to tell stories, you know, so I had nobody to teach me until much later, and I learned that the hard way. But what I discovered since then is that there really is more to that story than just sensationalism, that there is a lesson there. And that's now that I can focus on what that lesson is, rather than how creeped out I'm going to make the audience. That makes a whole different story.
Oh, totally. I made a similar mistake. I was asked to do some Edgar Allan Poe stories, or at least one Edgar Allan Poe story, in a set of scary stories. And so I read a lot of his stories. I knew a lot of them, but I reread those, and I read a whole bunch of others. And the one that came to me, because, you know, I didn't want to do the Telltale Heart because everybody knows that one. I didn't want to do the Red Plague because everybody knows that one. And so what I did, I ended up doing the Black Cat. And I told it in the first person, which is, you know, that's Poe's technique anyway for the majority of his stuff. I told it in the first person, but I set it as someone in a 12-step program in a prison awaiting execution. And because I was so nervous about telling it, I wanted to tell it right off the bat and be done with it. And so this was Jean Armstrong up in Maine. She introduced me. She said, Simon Brooks, he's going to start off with this Edgar Allan Poe story. Please, what? And I got up on the stage and I said, hi, thank you for having me here. And I just went into it as if it was a 12-step program, right? There was nothing else. I went straight into the story. And this was in a community. I knew some of the storytellers who were there. Michael Parent was one of them. Jean was there, Jean Armstrong. And 5 people during the story and at the end of the story got up and walked out. And I was just, oh, shoot. I should not have done that. I should not have opened up with that story. Because the audience didn't know me, right? Some of them did, but the majority of them didn't. And they didn't know what was going on. I was able to talk to, I talked to Michael and to Jean, and they knew the people who walked out because it was their group of folks. And so they, on my behalf, they apologized to them when they saw them next, but there was just one couple that I was able to actually speak to. And apparently it was a huge trigger for this person. And it set them off. And it was like some, this massive trauma that she had had. And I just put her right back in it. And I think that if I had not started off on that story and started on something that was a lot lighter or had a whole bunch of humor in it, I could have swung that story because it wouldn't have been me in a 12-step program making my confessions, right? It would have been, this is Simon telling a story. We trust him, right? So yeah, and then over the pandemic last Halloween, a group of people asked me to tell, they said, we want your Fright Night, for adults. And I said, well, how Fright Night do you want? And they said, we want like the bloodiest stories that you've got. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And I was thinking about that after I got off the phone with them. And I was like, I can't do that because I don't know the audience that's going to be watching this, right? There might be some people there who are ready for The Exorcist. And there are going to be people out there who are so not ready for The Exorcist, right? Not that I was telling that story, but, just to give you an idea of what I'm doing, right? Yeah. And so I did 2 recordings of the show. I did the full-on one, and I did what I thought would be a much better set of stories, right? And I sent them both to the library. I gave them access to it. And I said, watch both of them and tell me which one you want to use. And I ended up, they were like, oh yeah, we can't do the Blood and Guts one. I was like, I am so glad that I did the second one and, made you watch it before putting it out there, because there are people that, and when you're broadcasting something live like that, you can't look at the people's faces and be like, this is making them really uncomfortable. I need to pull back, right? Because it's just throwing yourself out there. And it's kind of like going back to that whole thing about movies. You can put those images in people's head, even telling a story, but as doing it as a film, which is what I was doing at that particular point, I can't pull it back. And even if I was doing it live via Zoom,
I can't unsee it, I can't unsee
right, yeah,
it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so important.
It's also
Renee had
sorry.
Renee had a similar experience. She traumatized a child with the old lady who swallowed a fly. It was the perhaps she'll die lessons learned. Yes. And Invisible Hearths says, certainly I craved gothic tense stories even as a little kid, and I could emotionally handle prose better than film. Yeah. I had a teacher that read us the Monkey's Paw by W.W. Jacob, I think it is. And that was that was a good creepy story. It is a good creepy story.
It's also important for people to stick with the story till the end.
Oh yeah.
Because if any kind of difficult story, if they walk out in the middle of it and you lose them before you get to that wrap up, because usually there's support at the end.
There is. And and if not, they all lived happily ever after. There's always they lived after, right?
Yeah, they lived after. Did Catherine say something? I saw.
Yeah, she said she's actually prompted me to talk about your peace stories. I think she wants us to move away from the horror and the gothic. So she says that Laura, not Lauren, but Laura does great peace stories, but you do great peace stories. And those
Well, yeah, was she thinking of Laura Sims?
yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah. This isn't Laura Sims. This is Lorna Czarnota.
But
I'll have Laura back.
I work, Catherine. I work with at-risk teenagers in the runaway shelter, and I have to tell them sometimes pretty tough stories. But all of the stories have some kind of resolution where they're taking away a valuable life lesson. So they may start out as um, not peace stories, but they usually end up with something peaceful. You know.
I imagine those kids are probably more hardened as well.
It's true, but even there,
to some degree,
I'm mindful of two things. One, re-traumatizing them, which is what you were talking about before, and also giving them something that they haven't experienced yet. So.
Right.
But if one of the things with folk and fairy tales is the reality is masked behind the mask of a character.
Right. It's one step removed.
Yeah.
And you don't get that with personal stories.
Yeah.
It's about that person in front of you, right? Which makes there's no barrier there between you and that experience that they had necessarily. Whereas with a folk and fairy tale, there's that level of safety. I think we can pull out of that.
And then we can come out learning something from our experience.
That's true. It's true.
Yeah.
In a well-told personal story, I would agree. That's very, very true.
I'll give you an example. 11 years ago was my really terrible, horrible, awful year, which I think I talked about before. My dog died, my mom died, my dad died, and I had breast cancer. And I had already been sharing all of the terrible things that were happening to me on Facebook with my friends. And now I had to tell my friends, I wanted to tell my friends because I needed them. I have cancer. But that is just like blurting out on a screen, the blood splurting out of somebody's severed neck. It's just not. It's not what I wanted to do. So I created a story around it and became the hero in that story, the determined storyteller. So if you ever see me post about the DS or the determined storyteller, she is my personal hero that helped me through that adventure. And, I was telling the story of, the determined storyteller stands at the edge of an abyss. That was the day that my doctor gave me the diagnosis, and that was the way I told my friends that something was going on. And she had a choice of walking, along the edge of that abyss or diving in to discover what was going on. And that was my moment of deciding, do I really want to know what is involved with the diagnosis that I have, which was actually the moment that I found out I had to go and have a test for the cancer, a test that I had before that was a horrible test, and I didn't want to take that plunge, but I knew I had to, and I had just lost some friends who had breast cancer, and I didn't want their lives to be for nothing, or their deaths to be for nothing. So I said, well, I'm going to jump in. And then the next thing I know, my friends who knew I'm a storyteller, they didn't know that I was talking about cancer. They just knew that I had to deal with something. They started sending me things, imaginary things. So one friend, the first thing I got, he said, I'm sending you the towel from the Hitchhiker's Guide for the Galaxy. And I didn't know what that was because truthfully I hadn't read the book. But I looked it up and I said, oh, this towel can become anything you want it to be. So I wrote back to my friends on Facebook, well, the DS takes that towel and she uses it as a parachute to drop safely into the abyss, where she lands safely. And the next thing I know, I'll just give you the list of some of the things people sent me. A flaming sword of truth, a shield of protection. I can't remember what the helmet was. A helmet, a basket of glowing orbs, a band of angels. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. A band of angels. And so they were sending me all of these things virtually. And I was putting them to use in my story virtually. And I told the story that way of what I was going through. And then finally, there's a voice from inside the cave that's at the bottom of this abyss. And the determined storyteller rolls a glowing orb into the cave to illuminate the cave. And she hears a voice from inside. And it says, I am Cancer. And now my friends know what monster she's about to face. And so I did that whole process with them. And then my dad had gotten sick, and so my dad became part of that story. And so on and so on and so on. And we defeated the monster. Sadly, she couldn't save her father, but she defeated the monster that called itself Cancer. And since that time, when I've had friends who have gotten a diagnosis like that, I will tell them that story about the determined storyteller and what she did. And I will say, I am loaning you the shield of protection or the breastplate. One of them was a bronze breastplate of protection that somebody sent me to protect my breasts. And I've loaned those things out to other people over time. So it's an incredible way to tell the story of a personal experience in a safe way.
That's so cool.
So I now have a costume for my superhero, the determined storyteller, and there was a superheroes event here in one of our parks a couple years ago. It was a walk. They were making money for some charity. And so, there were people there as Spider-Man, and there were people there as Wonder Woman. I went as the DS, the determined storyteller. Walked around in my little costume. So.
Yeah, so if I went around in a DS costume, someone would say it was probably stood for dip something. So we've had some wonderful comments regarding this. Catherine says DS, very cool concept, and Sarah De Beer loves the towel, which is true. It's a great towel, and also the DS concept, and says how cool to receive so many magical gifts that help the determined storyteller. And then she also says, wow, to be able to share and then loan powerful magic objects. I know, wouldn't that be phenomenal if we were able to do that for real? I mean, metaphorically it's great, but imagine if we actually had these, this is me, the folk fairy tale storyteller, right? It's like, I want that magic shield, I want that magic sword. And then Renee Kim Ray, the best possible survival game for determined storytellers. I'll aspire to be that kind of helper. Yeah, you will. I know you will, Renee. I don't know you that well, but you
thank you, everybody.
Strike me as that.
Thank you for your kind words.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And it was. I needed the support of my friends, but I didn't want to blurt out what was going on and take a risk of traumatizing them. And I wasn't looking for their sympathy. I wasn't a victim. I wanted a foundation, and we created that, and they helped me tell the story.
Right, so, that's amazing. That's so good. And you survived.
Yeah. I survived. Yeah, 11 years of survival.
That's so great. I'm so happy that you're still with us, for sure. We've lost a number of storytellers, and it breaks my heart when those libraries burn down to the ground, as it were. So I'm glad you're here.
I keep trying.
Elizabeth Ellis, who's we? Hang on. Catherine Crowley says, we used to exchange the imaginary golden tongue. It had bite marks in it for not saying anything too harsh. And then it's Elizabeth Ellis. Okay. All right. Nice Catherine Crowley that you're hanging out with Elizabeth Ellis. I love that. And then Sarah says, totally hear the caring way you protected your friends and yet allowed them to help you. I know, right? It's quite a conundrum when it's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It does. Yeah. I can't even imagine.
I have to say, I feel so doggone fortunate and lucky to be a storyteller because I approach life in a whole different way,
Mm-hmm.
And say a prayer, everybody, for my cousin. I won't use names, but some cancer that's going to be some surgery on Monday, and I can't be there. I can't be there, but it's if he could be there for himself with the story, I think it would be amazing. So I'm going to have to send him something. What should I send him? I could send him a towel. I'll tell you, it's mouth cancer. So glowing orbs, a sword, a breastplate. The helmet, maybe the helmet.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I can't remember what it was. So what should we make it, everybody? Should we make it a helmet of what?
I think it should. All right. So I'm going to put. Everybody else can put their comments in the notes there. So what should the helmet be made of? My thought is silver because it has that white light, but it's going to be decorated with amethyst because amethyst is that beautiful purple healing stone. So that's what I would do it.
And healing.
Sarah asks, "What does he love? What does your cousin like? What floats his boat?"
Oh, I'll be as nice as I can. Motorcycles.
Well, then a helmet would be apropos, I think.
There you go.
Maybe a leather jacket of some sort, if he's a biker.
A journey jacket.
A what, sorry?
A journey jacket.
Oh, yeah.
A journey jacket.
It could be yeah.
And a healing helmet.
And a healing helmet. So what else? What other people are saying? They're not saying very much. Have we lost everyone? I don't know. Helmet of healing, Lisa says.
Yep.
So any other comments? Welcome to take them on. Oh, here we go. Catherine says, we'll build in microphone music. Yes. Yes, with the music lights. I like that idea. Yeah, right. Catherine, are you a biker? Are you a biker chick? Biker girl? Biker woman? Biker human? So yes, well, it's 2:08. Wow, the hour went very quickly. So as we wrap up, is there anywhere that people can see? Are you doing anything soon coming up that might not require people to go to Buffalo to see you in your front garden on a Saturday morning?
Well, there's not a lot right now. I just did something not too long ago. I was asked to do something, but turns out I didn't have an appropriate story for what they wanted to do. They can go to YouTube and that's it right now. And I don't even know how to find my YouTube channel, except you could probably put my name in the search box, I would imagine.
Sarah, I'm going to put you in charge of that. Sarah's going to, if she's still here. Yes, she's still here. So some of the comments are, we've got a whistle of pure tone, which I really like that. And Renee, she decorate the silver with amethyst for strength, courage, and healing, which is And then Sarah says a cadre of imaginary fellow travelers who roar around him as protectors. That's a cool one. Kind of like a gladiator surrounded by other gladiators. I like that. Fellow travelers. I like that a lot. That's
some wonderful ideas. And I'm definitely going to message him as soon as we're finished.
Okay, that sounds great. So go and find. So Sarah, she hasn't popped it up yet. Let me have a quick look, see if I can do it any quicker. Let's go to YouTube. I'll pop it up there real quick. YouTube. And what's your name again? Friday with Friends. Historical presentations. Is that you?
Probably.
Yes, it is. All right. So here we go.
But That might be just a trailer. That's a trailer, I think.
Yeah, I found your page and I'm going to put it in the chat right now. So this is, see how quickly we do that. Sarah said she missed what she was supposed to do. Sorry, Sarah, I covered it. I got it.
So some of my videos, I kept them private because either they were just for me or I was monetizing them. But some things are public, and
so I just put your I have put your YouTube channel up there. So all of your videos will appear on that front screen, and then people can right click and open it up in a new window and then go back to that first window if they choose to do so. That's how I operate. A couple of things I wouldn't mind mentioning is that tomorrow we are continuing the Hans Christian Andersen storytelling summer concert series live, not in person but virtually. And this Saturday, tomorrow, in fact, it's going to be Robin Beatty and Megan Hicks is going to be telling stories, and Laura Sims and myself are hosting it. And that's tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern time. And then on Tuesday, it's the TBD Storytellers concert, monthly concert, last Tuesday of the month. And it's going to be 4 of the tellers, which is going to be Sheila Arnold, Anne Rutherford, Norm Brecky, and Jeff Doyle. And then next month, it'll be Antonio Hosher, Paul Strickland, Ingrid Nixon, and myself. And the theme for our storytelling at TBD Storytellers this month and next month is survival of the fittest, how we made it through childhood, basically. And this will be not this month, but next month when I'm telling, it'll be the last personal story that I tell for a long time, but it's a good one and it's a true one. It's not a taught out. So if you can make it, great, and go visit Lorna on her website. I shall put her website back in here again because I've still got where is it? Oh, that was something else. I moved away from you. I'm going to put Lorna's website up in the chat so you can go and visit her online, and you already have the YouTube page, and Lorna is also on Facebook, which presumably we can get to via your website. Is that true or not?
I'm not sure.
Okay, you might have to look that up yourself, folks. Anyway, thanks everyone for being here. Just want to make sure that you see this. I like all of you. You're wonderful people, great human beings. Thanks for joining me this lunchtime, and I'm going to try and get back on a regular system. It might not be every week. It might be every other week, but I've got lots of people that I want to reach out to see if we can get them on our show. Thanks for being here, Lorna. I really appreciate your time and your camaraderie, if not friendship. And I so look forward to when we can get back in person together again. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.
Nice meeting you. Thank you, Simon.
You're very welcome.